Hi, I'm Eric Hansen. Welcome to the program Reformation Times. If you are with us live, thank you so much for being with us. If you are watching us recorded, you're not going to be able to text in or write in questions, but we would love to answer any questions that you have about Fivefold International or Fivefold International School of Ministry. This program is coming to you live right now from the studios here at iWorship Center. We're so thankful that you've taken your lunch hour to be with us today. A very special guest in-house today is Megan Roberts. Welcome to the program.
Thank
Megan,
you.
good to have you.
Thanks.
It just started raining outside and your windows were down, so we're trying to take care of that.
Yes,
and
I'll focus
a few
now.
technical
Sorry.
difficulties, but we are here with you today. Megan is the director of our Creative Arts Department here at iWorship Center, and though this program is designated and designed around Fivefold International, she is part of all that we do here, and we're very, very thankful for you being on the team.
Thanks.
And it's just not music. The Department of Worship Arts. Tell us what that all includes, and then we'll get into some specifics for those of you who are watching and answer any questions that you might have. Just drop them to Hannah online there in the chat room.
Well, like most people, you come out of college. I went to North Central in Minnesota, Minneapolis, and you're taught there that worship is music. And so, spent 4 or 5 years after college just kind of falling in that groove, and worship is music only, and got here, and I don't even know.
How long have you been here? Part of iWorship Center, part of the network.
Part of the network.
Yeah, including the
moved
West
here
Campus.
4 years.
4 years ago.
Yeah, where I was there for about a year just doing, just worship and working a job during the week, and that was what I did. And but here now, being full-time director of worship arts, going on 3 years in November.
Yeah, that's great.
So wild.
So that's dance. That's what else?
It's and like I said, going back, I don't know what resource I was studying or reading, but I just I stopped and I went, this isn't right. Worship isn't just music. Worship is all these things that we consider, bringing glory to God. So that's why we're worship arts. We include dance, painting, drawing, photography, design, all sorts of things. Anything, and I don't know. It started out being anything that within a live worship setting that we could do, that would really bring different people, help them to encounter the presence of God. Some people, music isn't everything. Some people, we'll have someone up there painting and it's just oh my goodness, that spoke right to me. And they don't even know what songs we sang because that's what ministered to them during worship. So that's our worship.
Yeah, music obviously is very audible, but when you see somebody painting on stage during worship, it's a different impact.
Right. And dance, we just started having a couple times a month now. We'll have, a dancer on the stage. And nothing distracting. That's our main thing, is we don't want anything that takes away from corporately what's happening. So I don't want you, just kind of out on your own doing your own thing. It needs to be someone that I trust that's going to fit into what's happening and can add to what we're doing, not distract from overall corporately what's happening.
We also have a school, Fivefold International School of Ministry. Hannah, who's in the chat room right now, so feel free to drop her a note if you have any questions for Megan or myself, or as it relates to Fivefold. Drop that note to Hannah. She's going to forward those here to us in studio. So again, welcome to the program. But we're talking here initially about different forms, different styles of worship.
Yep.
I know in some churches it's a big change just to go from a hymn to a chorus. Now you're talking about dancing and art and all this other kind of stuff. Talk us through, or tell someone out there who says, man, that really sounds neat. I wish our church would do that. How would someone begin to introduce that? Probably go to the pastor first.
Right. And it has to flow from the top down. It starts with, for me, I have the privilege of being here and being able to dream a lot of the time. I'm not in and out throughout the week. I'm here. So for me, it's really important to get the spiritual atmosphere of the church, of the community. What's happening? I really believe, within our church, we have the DNA. He's put in our church the DNA to reach our city. And so if there's not something that naturally rises to the surface, I'm not going to force my hand at that. And so a lot of the different arts that we have, primarily right now it's through music, dance, and painting. Those are the three that we really, you'll see if you come here on a Sunday morning, you'll see done.
But you're developing some others. I mean, through the arts festival. Why don't you say some of those other categories that we're trying to foster, or you're trying to foster?
Oh gosh, and that's where writing comes in. We do, poetry, short story. We celebrate. I mean, this arts festival is a celebration of what our community is good at. How they, maybe without knowing it, how they worship their creator through what they're good at doing. So it's writing, we do the arts, we do the music, we do the dance, we add in photography, which is something that, even like our online, if you go to our website, you'll see photographs that are taken in-house from people who that's their gift, that's their talent. So photography, this last year we added in food through the palette. What can you create, And there's people who are good at that. That's how they minister. And this was celebrating the art of that, but in a very real way, they minister through food.
You had sculpture?
Sculpture, we didn't have any this year. We had sculpture, and we had like a 3D art. So like anything that's tangible that you can
So the bottom line is, no matter what you're gifted in, whatever it is that you excel in, that is worship.
It points to the Father.
And we try to incorporate those things as much as possible.
Right.
When most people think of worship, they think of music. So
Yep.
let's talk for a minute to someone that might be tuned in today and says, gosh, I would like to do what you do. First of all, is a 4-year degree something that you would say is mandatory?
No, I mean, nothing against my schooling.
Right.
Those 5 years, those were a foundation for me. But I think I got caught up, like so many people do. You go to school because you're going to learn everything, And I came out and thought, okay, now that I've learned what I need to know to do this. And the truth is, so much of it is hands-on. I've learned, and I've been out of school longer than I was in school. So, you pick up some stuff along the way. But if I compare the years, even the 3 years here in full-time ministry doing this compared to the 5 years that I was there, if you can compare them, I feel like the practical aspects of what I know today was not something I learned in a classroom. It's crawling around on the stage. It's having the conversation.
I remember when you first came,
yeah.
Where does this chord goes and this chord and that kind of, that's the technical.
They don't teach you that.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the misconceptions I had about worship leaders, and even the misconception that people have about me. I started here, and I got this question so many times of, oh, well, can you do this and that throughout the week? I was like, no, I have a full-time job at the church. Well, what do you do? And I had that same misconception, but, and I think it's more than just standing behind your instrument and singing good and playing good. It's about knowing how to plug in that keyboard, how to fix that microphone if it doesn't work, how to communicate that to other people that you're also trying to teach that to.
Selecting the music, writing new music, organizing services. Let's talk about instruments for a second. How important it is for someone that says, hey, I want to get involved in leading worship? That's our topic here today. We're talking to Megan Roberts, the Director of Worship Arts for iWorship Center, also part of Fivefold International, and just drop any questions you have to her into the chat room there, and we'll address those here in just a minute. Some are starting to come in. Appreciate that. But let's talk about the instrument for a second. Someone's like, I want to do that, but they don't play an instrument. Number one, do you have to be able to play an instrument?
No.
How important is it that they might?
Well, yes. If you're like, most people have a given interest towards something. And I love that people come to me and they say, hey, I'm really interested in this, but I don't know how to play my instrument, or I don't know how to play it in that setting.
Right.
I've got young kids that come to me for piano lessons because they want to play worship music, but they're not on a worship team yet. And so I think, and something that we value here is that you never stop learning. Even if you've played your instrument for 20 years, how are you investing in yourself? And so people come to me and say, I want to do something. I'm interested in worship. The first thing I ask is, well, what part of it do you want to do? What instrument do you want to play? Are you a vocalist? Are you a sound guy? What are your talents lending you towards? And I put them on a track where, okay, now how can you start now with what you know? It might not be a Sunday morning. And we have the privilege here of having services all over the network at different campuses, different nights of the week that vary in I can plug someone into a Tuesday night worship service that I might not plug into a Sunday morning for 6 months.
Somebody that's tuned in now and says, I'd like to get involved in it. I would say, as you did, never stop learning.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of people that come and say, I've arrived.
Oh, totally.
Now use me.
Totally.
And then you would say, gosh, we really want you to get involved in the church, and we have some mechanisms in place to do that.
Yeah.
So as a musician or a singer that wants to get involved, keep your humility.
Yeah.
And your teachability. And
I tell everyone, take lessons.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how good you are. Take lessons. Know what you're doing.
What would you say would be, somebody wants to get involved, a primary list of top 3 or 4 instruments that someone might want to?
Oh, gosh.
Piano, obviously, you're a pianist.
Yep.
Guitar.
Right. Yeah, I mean.
Drums and bass, probably. That's
exactly.
your kit. That's
vocalist.
the deal, right?
Yep.
Right.
Yep. And I have.
But everybody thinks they can sing.
Yeah.
But not everybody can sing.
Right. And it depends. I mean, and this, I don't know if this is right or wrong, but kind of what I do, like for me, I'm very selective with certain instruments, and then I'm less selective with some, just because we all know there's instruments that can make or break. And for me, it's drums. It's all about drums and rhythm. So for me, I don't wrap my arms around 15 drummers. I wrap my arms around 2.
Right.
But then there are some, and not that I value positions more or less. I mean, they're all important. But there are some that, like I said, on a Sunday morning, I need you to know what you're doing. And so there are, not necessarily like entry level, but there are different instruments that you can play. Piano's a foundational one. I mean, even a singer, like when I was in college, we had to take, I was a piano player, but I had to take voice lessons. Voice students had to take piano.
Right.
There's foundational things.
But there's also, my daughter Hannah, who's in the ministry today, she had an inclination that she wanted to be in ministry early on. We wanted to get her involved in music.
Right.
And pick an instrument, Hannah, and she picks the flute.
Yeah. Oh, and, yeah.
And so, we appreciate flute players. We have one on our team.
Exactly.
But a flute doesn't necessarily lead a worship.
You're not going to go to the church down the street and say, here I am.
Right. So if you're wanting to get involved in worship, talk to your pastor, whether it's music or dance or whatever. Or maybe they're interested in saying, I want to do what you do. Let's start there.
Oh,
what are some of the misconceptions that people have about what it is that you do?
Well, like I said before, I mean, it takes time. Like you
just don't drink coffee.
It's not just
drink coffee all day.
Right.
And play your piano on Sunday.
I don't just get up Sunday morning and go, okay, what songs am I going to play today? Or, I wonder who's going to play with me. I mean, that takes time, and so it is knowing technically. I know there's certain worship teams out there that, every musician on the stage has to know how to transpose music. Well, truth is, not every church musician knows how to transpose music. So that's up to me to make sure that when I get there Sunday morning, the songs are in the right keys.
The average church in America
I know what
today
I'm doing.
is under 100 people. So we here at this network, we have campuses that are under 100, but the main campus obviously is much larger, and so we have a larger pool of people to
draw from.
But most people that are watching the program today, maybe they got a piano player, and they may have a drummer.
Right.
But there's always that one person that seems to have a little bit more going on. They may end up being the leader.
Yeah.
So let's talk to them just for a second. They don't have all the bells and whistles that you have.
Right.
And you actually, as a campus pastor, at one time, were in a situation where you had a church that was less than 100 people.
Yep.
Talk about building a team in a church that's smaller than 100 people.
Yeah, I mean, it takes time. It takes relationship. It takes.
Well, you're probably not the full-time music minister if the church is under 100.
Right, which was me. I mean, we would show up Sunday morning and have a rehearsal with the same 5 people. And that's typical. I mean, that's and if someone was sick, you got a text at 6:30 that morning and you went, oh my goodness, what am I supposed to do now?
Right.
Well, you make it work the best that you can. But I think the biggest injustice that even even if you're not called to be a worship leader, you're just someone who plays a piano and sings and you're looked at to lead a team, the biggest injustice that you can do is being unprepared and being unorganized. you want to make, no matter if this person can only give you Sunday morning or they can give you a midweek rehearsal, do them a service, and that's you yourself be prepared and you be a learner. You know what it is that you're trying to accomplish, because you can't ask anyone to do something that you're not doing.
As a musician who has sat under leaders, when you come into a practice time, and it's crunch time, it's Sunday morning, service starts in an hour, you've got 30 minutes to put things together. If they're not organized, if you're not organized as the leader, that's going to directly reflect how smooth the service goes. So I want you to talk a little bit about that, and then I want you to talk how do they work with a senior pastor. Say the senior pastor doesn't do music. A lot of senior pastors,
right?
I mean, that can be a potential for a catastrophe.
Right. Going back to your team, respect their time. I mean, they've got jobs too. And I mean, for you, as someone who maybe this isn't your position, you can do yourself a service of just being organized, because people are going to look at you and be like, well, what's happening? And if you don't know yourself what's happening, you don't have a clear path of what you're trying to accomplish in that rehearsal, in that worship service. I mean, and chances are, if you're the person who's stepping in because you're just available and desiring to do it and willing to do it, most of the time you're going to run across someone who is more creative than you, or is more knowledgeable than you, but just doesn't want to do it, or thinks they are more knowledgeable than you. So you have to know, you have to come in, and I don't pretend to know the answer to everything. And that's one thing that it made me so nervous, because, I've got this worship team, and oh my goodness, I don't have all the answers, but I need to pretend like I do. And I did that for a while, and I was always nervous. I was always scattered.
It's okay to have people on your team that are better at things than you.
Right.
Let me just pastorally speaking in a fivefold area, there's different gifts and there's different talents. Some people are better at organizing, some people are better at people.
Absolutely.
And then in music, some people are better at, I can transpose that in my head, no problem, G to A, blah, blah, blah. And some people can, divide 16th notes and they have no problem with rhythm. Some people can drop an entire beat in a measure because they're a vocalist. It doesn't,
Yeah.
So next topic, I want to cover this real quick.
Okay.
We're talking to somebody here today, maybe, and again, welcome to the program, Reformation Times. We're talking with Megan Roberts, our creative arts director at iWorship Center. Talking to somebody involved in music, where do you go to find your music? You know what I mean? I remember early on when I was a worship leader, like, where on earth, how do you, is it the radio? Do you go to the Christian bookstore? Do you go to iTunes? And you want to hear what the senior pastor has to say, obviously, as well.
Right, and that's going back to that question you had of how do you work with that. I came in, and we, because you were previously leading worship before me here, and so I came in on the coattails of that. And you just have to be very aware of what's going on. Take note of what, and I think even for us, I had a lot of your files of music that I wouldn't know what it sounded like. So you go on, we have the privilege nowadays of having YouTube, which is huge. Yeah. What does a song sound like? And now our files are, obviously I've been doing this now here for 2 or 3 years. So now files are going to be primarily what I'm familiar with. But for a while, I'm not going to throw everything out old and start new. There's an integration process.
You keep files.
I keep files.
Talk about how that works.
Oh yeah, alphabetically. You just
photocopy, you get a sheet of music.
Right. You
make the copies.
And I don't keep a lot. If I haven't done a song for 2 years, like when we first got here, there are songs that I started with and I toss them. Don't keep 500 songs. You don't need 500 songs. There are some songs that stick around for years and years and years, and there's some songs that you do for 2 or 3 months, and then they never resurface, or they resurface 5 years down the road.
As a leader, after the first time you do a song, maybe it takes 2 times to do.
Oh, you do.
You go.
Right.
That's just not.
Right.
It may be a great song, it's well written, it's got a good hook, the chord progression is great, but it's just not.
I'm going to pay attention. I'm going to pay attention to the setting that I did it in. I'm going to pay attention.
First service versus,
Right. And we introduce a lot of our new songs at our Leadership Summit, which is, we've got leaders, we've got people they walk through the doors and they are in the presence, they are in the throne room, they're there.
And you're introducing a song to 100 people that are influential in leadership already. They get it, so then on a Sunday morning, people are already singing it out. That
Totally.
helps. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, but I fall into the realm of, having to be creative, but I'm very type A. So my files, they don't grow and grow. And I mean, I'm in them 2 or 3 days a week. So they stay pretty clean and organized. And I want to, like, there's sometimes on stage, and I've got different keys of songs. If I'm on stage and I say, hey, we got to do this in a different key, I want to have access to those things. I want anyone who walks in my office to know how to find the music.
Well, the beauty of what we have today is that if it's in the wrong key, you can go, oh, I don't want that in that key. Click a click and boom.
Create a key.
Create a key and print it out.
Yeah.
Let's talk about music selection.
Yep.
I think we're probably, because we've worked together now for the last number of years, we're on the same page. We're all this concerned. I've been in some church services where someone will try to introduce 3 new songs in one service, and the thing just tanks. We appreciate your creativity, but too much of it's going to drown your congregation.
Right. A few things that we do now is we introduce 2 brand new songs a month, and sometimes we don't even get there. Sometimes we'll bring back songs that have only been played.
That's a new song every other week. So and if not everyone has come to every service that month,
right.
If they've missed a couple of weeks, they could be hearing 2 or 3 new songs the first time they're here.
A really good, and this, I know we do it here, and I think most churches probably do it, but they'll have music that's played before service, in between, if you got multiple services in between services. We always put, I'll pick new songs, I'll pick new songs for June, if not July. So I'll download them from iTunes, and I'll put them on our pre-service music.
Listen to this. This is a great trick.
Yes.
They don't know they know the song, but they've heard it for a month in
Right.
pre-service music. They're walking in there time,
Right.
and they're hearing this song. They're not paying attention, but now you introduce it.
Absolutely.
4 weeks later, they go, oh yeah, I kind of like that song.
Yep. And even songs that never make it into our services, it's a good way to try it out. Hey, there was a song on the CD you play ahead of time. What was the name? If you get 2 or 3 of those, you're onto something that people are excited about. And so it might not even have the intention of coming into a service, in the next month or 2. But if there's a lot of people saying, I want to know who sings that, who's doing that song, then we'll kind of weasel it into something.
Okay, next topic. I want to talk a little bit about children and the importance of children worshiping. We have what we call Kids Zone, Kids Zone Launchpad. Pastor Lori.
Yep.
We should have her on as a guest soon.
You hear that, Lori? Get ready.
Yeah. But we recently had them in the service, part of the adult service, if you will.
Yep.
A lot of churches, they don't have the ability to have a children's church. It's a church of under 100.
Right.
That's the majority of the people that we talk to. So we have to say, how do we get kids involved in worship?
I think here, even if we didn't have, like you said, I mean, she's got teenagers and her junior leaders leading kids.
I love that. That's awesome. Let me say this: that when I was in rural Minnesota and pastoring a church of 100 people, I would look at a church. Let's be honest, like I worship center, and I go, would you please tell me how this can happen?
Yeah.
Lori does an awesome job, and the music that we do here for the kids is great.
Yeah.
I want you to address somebody that the kids are in worship too. How can kids be involved in worship?
Oh gosh, I mean, I think we learn how to worship from kids. Here, I'll be up leading worship on a Sunday morning, and there's 5 or 6 kids under the age of 3 years old dancing and jumping and running around. So I think, if you don't have a program, like a kids program that has worship, play worship in your home. Teach them how to worship. And I think that's a direct result of why they can come into this sanctuary and they're jumping and they're, and a lot of these kids, they know the words to these songs. They do. And it's not just about them singing those songs. It's about them just having access to seeing adults worship and us seeing them worship. I mean, it works both ways.
That's important because as a senior leader, if you have children in your church service, you don't have a children's church, you can invite them to come down front. You can have a few adults just kind of keep an eye on them.
Yeah.
But you must be okay with those kids kind of, I don't want to say tearing it up, but just
Right.
it would seem from an adult perspective they're out of control. But they are moving,
Right.
and they're enjoying the music, and the music is about God. And
Yep.
I'm talking to senior leaders now. You must make an atmosphere where that's acceptable. Otherwise, you won't have adults later on that worship.
Right. And you'll see the parents of those kids that are dancing and jumping around. A lot of times those parents will grab their hands and they'll just dance. You know, I mean, so there is a context. I mean, I don't want them, you know, ripping around and doing somersaults and cartwheels. As their parents, grab their hands and dance with them, sing the songs with them, and ask kids during worship, you know, what is the Lord showing you, or why do you want to dance, and why do you want to jump, and have them answer you.
Invite them on the platform.
Right. Oh yeah, and we do that, and even like the junior leaders that lead, you know, back in Kids Zone, even if they didn't have that outlet, they've picked themselves. They're worshipers, and so we only have select Sundays that they come on the platform with us because they're ministering other places. But if you don't have an outlet for them to minister, bring them on the platform. I mean, they don't. And be okay with maybe they're not the greatest singers, or maybe they stand up there and at first they're really uncomfortable. That's okay. It's going to get easier for them to be an example on stage. Don't be afraid that they're 10 years old and, oh, they don't know how to do this, or, oh, they don't, you know, maybe like when we had the kids on stage, we didn't sing kids songs that were written for 5-year-olds. We sang the normal songs that we sing on a Sunday morning, and we just invited them to come. They know how to worship on a really deep, intimate level. And I think sometimes we cut them short by thinking, oh, they just know Jesus loves me. They don't know the songs that we sing. That's okay. They can enter into worship on the same level that we can. It just might look a little bit different, and that's okay.
Recently, we had them in the service, and our director of creative media, Jake Wallace, who's our director today and producer, he put a little video together of some of the kids. I want to give you guys an opportunity to take a look at this, and then we'll come back in our conversation with Pastor Megan Roberts, our director of worship arts here at iWorship Center. You're watching Reformation Times. Again, if you have any questions, please drop those in the chat room there with Hannah, and we'll be right back after you take a look at this.
He wants us to come in his heart, so like when he comes in our heart, like we'll be with Jesus every day. Well, he mostly means love to me. I know he made me this way when I first began. He always just will love me over and over. He means hope to me. He gives me peace.
He means to me that I know he really loves me, so I know he'll protect me.
I see fire around, and I'm just like sitting there in the fire, getting all warmed up in the woods, and there's the Holy Spirit surrounding me. Mostly in worship, I just sing and dance. Mostly when I go to bed and have dreams, I don't really get pictures during worship, but during my dreams I get a lot of pictures about what he shows me, what's gonna happen next.
Sometimes I draw like trees and apples and like us in heaven, and like we're grabbing food and eating it with Jesus.
We get to like dance and we get to sing. My favorite thing to do in worship is, I don't like boring songs. I like disco songs. I like a whole band playing it. Really fun songs like Toby Mac.
all of these songs. I don't like boring songs, like slow songs. And why I like it is that I think it's fun. I think I just get to move around a lot, get to praise God, jump around, turn around, spin around.
Mostly praise and worship and dance.
Hi, my name is Anna.
I'm Samuel Wallace,
My name is Erica Comerford.
And I love Jesus.
and I really love Jesus.
I really love Jesus.
Would you like to be a credentialed minister? Is God calling you to a deeper relationship with Him? Then log on right now to inquire about Student Ministries Diploma, Pastoral Studies, Music Ministry, Worship Leading, Ministry Studies, and so much more. Inexpensive and only one night a week. Log on right now to fivefoldinternational.org for all the details and to register for Fivefold International School of Ministry.
Hi, I'm Eric Hansen. Welcome back to the program with Megan Roberts today, our Director of Creative. I call you like so many other different things. I always kind of stumble over whatever it is that we call you. It's just, hey, Megan.
Creative, worship,
Creative something,
whatever.
worship, Megan. So it's good to have you here with us today. This is, like I said, Reformation Times. It's a monthly live webcast where we come to you with some topics that we think may help you in your walk with the Lord. Fivefold International is our credentialing organization. We also have a school of ministry that meets every week, and there's some new classes that are coming up. So whether you're looking for ministerial credentials or you're looking for some continuing education, everything from Bible study methods to creativity and everything in between, log on to Fivefold International, fivefoldinternational.org. I'm sure Jake will probably put the information here on the screen sometime during the program. And just check that out, and we have a big conference coming up the first 3 days of August this year. Dr. David Remedios, John King from Peoria, lots of great things happening. I want to encourage you to come out to the conference in August. All right, well, we've been talking about worship today and how that relates to, loving God and so it was, I love to worship, so that's God calling me to be a worship leader. Not everybody should be a worship leader because there's certain skill sets, but also an anointing and a calling. So I want you to talk a little bit about the progression that brought you from, hey, I love worshiping God to I am now a worship leader.
Yeah. It is different. I mean, I went to school not even intending. I went as just a music major, and I later chose church music as my
focus. I love
focus.
God and I love music, so let's go do
it.
What
What else? I don't know what else to do. I had the parents. So where are you going to go to college? What are you going to do? And I said, well, I've been taking lessons since I was 5 years old.
Right.
Let's start there.
Right.
So really just went.
God often moves us in the direction that we are talented. Some people say, I want to be a worship leader, but I don't play and I don't sing. Well, let's see what you're good at first,
right,
Junior.
And you have to ask yourself that. And for me, it didn't start out there. I just went, classically trained. I just took theory and did all the things I knew how to forward, the gift that I loved to do, which was playing the piano. I didn't sing. I went to college having never sung in front of people.
And now you sing hours a week.
And now it's just there. And they did. School really gives you a foundation to see what you're good at and what you like to do. So I liked music. I liked playing the piano. I did not like to sing, which immediately discounts you. In my mind, there are band leaders, not worship leaders.
It narrows your, and I'm going to use a worldly term, it narrows your marketability if you say, I play.
Right. It does. And there are people who know music inside and out, but they don't sing. And we have, a guy here who does that, who's a band leader. He leads the band behind me, which is huge. But for me, as a worship leader, sing and play, that's very important. So for me, not feeling comfortable, I found out later that I am okay at singing. I won't consider myself the greatest singer out there by any means, but I can sing.
Was there something at school that said, Was there a moment at school? Was there a worship service? Was there a sermon? You said,
Yeah.
yeah, I can
Well,
do that.
even in I had to take 2 semesters of voice lessons, and I would get done, with our little voice recitals or whatever, and the teacher would say, "We couldn't hear you singing," because I was confident in my piano. And we had what was called praise gatherings. Every Wednesday night, we would have 2 hours of student-led, praise and worship. And I was sitting there one night, and I can remember it. I mean, I've journaled this. I hold it with me. My eyes were closed, and I saw this picture of me on stage leading worship. And there was a ton of kids around, and so maybe I lead worship for the wrong crowd. But anyways, I hold on to that as, what was that? And this was after I'd taken voice lessons, had no interest in leading worship whatsoever. And I saw that. And sometimes the Lord calls and then he equips. And so I feel like I had everything in me. I just didn't put any weight on it until the Lord showed me that. And I started to really ask the Lord, what is this? Why did you give this to me? This definitely wasn't me, because the things that I was doing in that picture,
it goes to the heart of the comment that you just made, and you said it very, off the cuff, but it's important for those of you that are tuned in today that are thinking, gosh, I'm leaning this way, but I just don't have the gift. You said that he equips the called.
Yeah.
Oftentimes we think, oh, look at all the gifts they have, therefore that's what has to happen. But
Right.
God says, I'll equip you. Can you hear me? Will you follow me?
Yeah.
And you're saying, I don't sing, but what I heard was, I did something I didn't think I was good at, which was, let's go to these singing lessons. Let's give this a
Right.
try.
Yeah.
It's not really what I think I should be doing or what I'm going to be doing,
Yeah.
but it's a stretch for me. Let's go
Yeah.
do that. So if you're tuned in today and you're thinking, gosh, I get stretched. It's okay.
Yeah, and I think too, there's some people out there who go, oh great, I sing, I play, I can do all of that.
I should go find a church to be a leader in.
Right, still stop and wait for the Lord to say, this is what I've prepared for you. And I think we can put weight on too of, I'm gonna move towards this and see what happens, and that's okay. But really, I think, what I was good at and what the Lord was saying came to an intersection. And that's when that's when I felt like I was launched into ministry.
That's when you stop doing a job. They say,
Yes.
find what you are really good at and what you love to do
Right.
and make that your life's
Right.
vocation or
Right.
occupation. And I
Yeah.
really feel you have that, you've done that, and that's why it's such a joy to work with somebody that it isn't a drudgery.
Yeah.
Nobody around here punches a clock.
Right.
No one's under a thumb like that, because my philosophy is, speaking apostolically, is if you find a bunch of people that love what they do, you don't want to pay them by the hour.
Right.
Because
Right.
then we're going to be working 100 hours a week. I mean,
Right.
I'm at home and I'm taking notes and I'm thinking, I'm constantly, and I see
Yeah.
you and everybody else around here the same way.
Yeah.
When you do what you love to do, it's just a sweet spot.
Yeah.
Talk about your own personal worship. You lead worship here every week and in
Right.
so many other different venues, but when it's time for Megan to worship, what does that look like?
Oh gosh, I don't.
Because let me just say, as a worship leader, I am eating off the plate while I'm serving. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I'm eating off the plate while I'm
Yes.
serving, but I'm not hunkered down over a bowl of spaghetti and it's just
Yep.
me. I'm
Yep.
taking a little bit here while, because I'm leading and then I'm gone and I'm in the inner court and I'm worshiping, but every once in a while you go, oh, I am leading. How are we doing? Is everyone
Yeah.
playing together? Is everybody okay?
Yeah, and I think one thing that, when I first started out, and I don't want to even take this the wrong way, but when I was leading worship, that was I kind of just checked out. I'm worshiping now, and there's a balance.
That's really good for you, but
Right.
unfortunately you don't take a lot of people
Right,
with you.
right.
Often.
And that's something that I've learned. I mean, that's taken me a lot of years to find that balance between, man, I do need to go into the presence of the Lord, but I need to find out how to make sure that I'm not leaving anyone behind. Because there's one thing with looking at, if I look at a worship leader who's lost in worship, me as someone who's been saved for a really long time and someone who loves to worship,
You can go, oh, okay,
I
let's all
close
get,
my
let's all
eyes and
get
I
lost.
go, okay,
Right.
I'm not looking to them to necessarily lead me. But for people who are walking in the church that don't know, they don't know what it's all about, I need to make sure that I'm presenting something that they can grab hold of, and they can not be distracted by what they don't know. They can latch onto something that they can feel comfortable doing.
Let me make the preaching application. I can stand up with higher education degrees and
Right.
talk about Greek and Hebrew and the elevation of Mount Horeb and the depth of the Sea of Galilee and
Yes.
the ambient temperature and the ark.
And manage to leave 500 people behind.
Yeah, but I really ministered to about 5 people,
Right.
And the same
Right.
thing as in worship.
Yeah.
You're trying preaching is like a shotgun. You want to shoot something that sprays and hits as
Right.
many people as possible,
Right.
which then sometimes leaves us feeling somewhat unsatisfied because we didn't go where we need to go, which brings me back to the question.
Yep.
Your own personal worship, like my own
Yes.
personal Bible study. If if I'm only gleaning from what I'm preaching, if
Right.
you're only gleaning from what you're worshiping, there's going to eventually be a deficit.
And I think, like for me, I mean, I can sit, here and listen to 40, 50, 60 songs a week to find one or two. And I'm able to turn that into, like, taking something that maybe I'm doing for the job and turn it into something that is very personal. I mean, most of the songs that I lead here, not all, because some of them I am making sure that I'm bringing generations of people along. Maybe something that I don't personally worship to on an everyday basis, but I have to find something within that song that I can attach myself to, so that when I'm leading that song, it's something that I'm invested in, that my heart has encountered the presence of Jesus in.
It's like you're a cook. You may not necessarily, this is not your favorite dish to serve, but you're going to do your best that,
Yep.
Some people really like. I remember talking to, we have an African American on staff. She's our senior citizen, Pastor Janora.
Yep.
She has roots, obviously, in black gospel and big
Yep.
choirs and stuff like that.
Yep.
And a while back, I led a song that had those tones to it, And she made that comment to me. She goes, it was like I went back home and Mom served me that meal, because that's how we attach ourselves to that. So.
And you can tell when you're in a worship service and you do a song that people have known for 15 or 20 years. I mean, it can feel like the driest service, and you pull one of those songs in, and instantly it's like, I don't even need to be behind the microphone.
There's a
like,
sense of nostalgia that
whoa,
happens.
we're going, yeah. We're
But that's
going
a
to that
double-edged
place.
sword, because if you
Yes.
constantly come back to that well,
Oh,
what
yeah.
happens is the younger generation goes, if they sing
Yep.
that song one more time,
Right.
I'm checking out and I'm gonna go find some
Right.
place more contemporary.
Right. And
it's a delicate balance.
It is delicate. And I think, like, going back to the personal times of worship, I mean, there's songs like, there's worship music on in my car, there's worship music on at my house, in my office, all different kinds of music. I mean, not just what we would label, this is the new worship song that's, top 20 charts. And I mean, listen to anything. And for me, it's having gone there in personal times of worship, like, it doesn't matter what song, and as a worship leader, listen to all sorts of music. It might not be something that you would typically just gravitate towards, but listen to everything and check your heart. I mean, if in that moment I'm having a hard time, oh man, this really doesn't scratch the itch, it's like, well, then I might not be in the right place. And so in personal times of worship, I deal with a lot of those things of, okay, Lord, what are you doing? What are you speaking? Like, and I said, earlier, getting the spiritual temperature. What is the temperature of where I'm at? I have to do that in a congregation, in a corporate setting, but I do that.
Sometimes you have to do it on the fly.
On the fly, but you have to do that personally as well.
Yeah.
I mean, leading worship isn't just a
So if
job
you
for
have
me; it's something personal.
And if you have a bad attitude or there were times I would lead worship and I'd be so frustrated that they're not worshiping. I would just want to.
Oh yeah.
Hey,
But you have to know, you have to hold on to what
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Lord spoke to you as a worship leader. I
Exactly.
mean, and everyone has to worship. I mean, that's what he created us to do. But for a worship leader, I have to check out. I have to have a personal download from Father God of what, like when I'm putting song sets together throughout the week, I worship through them, I pray through them, because before I ever step on stage, I want to have a personal conviction, a personal download of Father God, what does this song mean to me? What are you speaking to me? Because when I look out, if the spiritual temperature is freezing cold and nothing's happening, I have to know that, man, he's speaking through that song because he's already downloaded that week.
You can't
what he's
always
doing.
rely on whether someone's hands are
can't.
up or tears are flowing as whether
You
it's not
can't.
touching.
Can I touch on something real
Yeah.
quick about that? The temperature. We started something, and this came through a member. He was on our worship team, and he came to me and said, "Can we do worship intercession?" And that's something that we've just started recently. And this is something, whether you've got 100 people in your church and 5 people on the stage, or you've got 10,000 people in your church and rotations, have a worship intercessor on your stage. And not because then you can say,
Explain that, because there's some people that are tuned in now that have no idea when you say worship intercession.
worship
what that means.
intercession is how we approach it is someone who loves to worship, and this might be for someone who says, "Oh my gosh, I love worship, but I don't play anything." We've got worship intercessors who that's how they started out, or they came from a place of leading worship or doing, and they just kind of wanted a different avenue, and they love
Explain what that
to
looks
pray.
like.
What we do is on a stage, and they're part of our worship team. I mean, they're not an extra little thing happening off to
they're
the side.
scheduled just like anybody else.
They're scheduled. They're on the stage, and what their main.
Where are they on the stage?
We have ours on left or right.
So they're not in the middle. They're just kind of off to the side.
You can put them wherever they feel comfortable being, because a lot of worship intercessors, they don't want a spotlight on them. They don't want that. But they just love to pray. They love to worship, and they have a gift to be able to know, to discern what's happening, and their main goal is to worship. I mean, a lot of times you'll see them, they'll have their hands raised, or they'll clap, or they'll sing the songs with us. But then there's moments where you'll see them go in a different route. And like I said, again, nothing happens on stage.
So they're
that
praying for the
distracts.
worship team.
They're praying for the worship team. They're praying for, if they feel like the flow is being hindered by something, Lord, what is that? And they pray. They just pray against whatever is hindering. If they're feeling like, man, there's just a spirit of something in this room, Lord, what is that? They pray against those things. And as a worship leader, I can tell when they're there and they're interceding for that worship service. It makes a difference.
So if you've got, if you're developing a worship team, adding someone who is designated to be praying for that service for that worship team is vital. And,
Yeah.
and
they
as
should
someone,
flow through you. Just
Yeah.
like a worship leader works with a pastor, that intercessor works with
Yeah, because
that worship
there
leader.
is an independence at some streak in
Right.
some intercessors that all of a
Right,
sudden
yeah.
they're doing the
Yeah.
tomahawk chop in the corner.
Totally.
And it's not even.
Doesn't work separately, it works
It doesn't
together.
flow. It doesn't
Yeah.
flow. So let's say I pick up your iPod and I look through your favorites. What are you listening to right now?
Oh, right now, gosh, I mean, right now I have, it's You Make Me Brave. You Make Me Brave? You Make Me Brave? Yeah, have that one. Sorry, I have to sing. I'm so used to singing
Yeah.
them, I don't know titles.
Yeah.
You ask me titles,
Right.
I'm not good.
What artists are in your are in your shuffle?
Well, Stephanie, I don't know how to say her, Stephanie Frizzell, Gretzinger, Jeremy Riddle. I've got a lot of Wren Collective. If you really kind of, you want kind of a
They were just
out of the
Peoria.
box.
Did you go to, was that Wren
All
Collective?
Sons and Daughters.
All Sons and Daughters.
Yep, All Sons and Daughters. We've got some Wren Collective, and so I'm okay. I'm real good at more of the traditional stuff, but I have to be challenged in kind of what's out of the box, and I can make that my own. I can bring that into, maybe more of a traditional, playing it more traditionally, but be challenged. And for me right now, I mean, some of that, Wren Collective, that challenges me to be creative. And don't be afraid, don't get stuck in a rut. I mean, challenge your musicians with different stuff.
Pre-iPod,
Yep.
when I was leading worship, this is a very long time ago, we'd go to the Christian bookstore. I would say once a month, maybe it wasn't quite that often, once every 6 to 8 weeks. And that's when they had all the demos out.
Yep.
And I'd pick them and I would literally sit on the floor cross-legged in the corner with one of the free cassette players that they'd lend you
Yeah.
to listen.
Yeah.
And no, or the CD, boom, no. And I, maybe you're different, but let me run this by you. For me, I don't need 3.5 minutes or 4 minutes of a song to determine whether or not that is a song.
No.
It takes me 20, 30 seconds to go,
Yep.
get past the intro, let me hear the hook.
Yep.
What's the progression? Is it put together nice? Okay, I'll come back and listen to that.
Right.
I'll listen to the whole thing.
Right. For me, what I do, I call them YouTube rabbit trails. If you go, you've heard a song,
Yeah.
so you go and you YouTube it. Well, on the right-hand side, there's going to be similar artists. So I have a piece of paper and a pen, and I just start with something, whatever song.
I heard some on the radio.
Yeah,
or
so you
somebody
go-
told me about whatever.
Go
right.
YouTube it, listen through. If it's something that you really like, or maybe something you don't really like, check out what's on, the 20 options on the side. Click on one of them, then that one will play. That'll pull up another 20. And so I start to just write down, who is it by, what's the name of the song, what album is it on? That's a good one. Who is it by, what album is it on? Then I go to iTunes, which is great.
Because you can buy singles. Back in the day, you had to buy the whole CD to get one song.
Yeah, and they do 30-minute tidbits.
Oh,
so
nice.
I'll pull up that album and I'll listen to, the 30 seconds that they give me of each one of those
Yeah,
songs.
oh, there's one maybe.
Buy 2 or 3 of them.
Yep.
So, in a month, I don't go crazy. I mean, only download the ones that are in the 75 percentile that you're going to
Yeah.
actually do them.
Yep.
But so I do. I'll go on a rabbit trail once or twice a week and get a list of 15 or 20 new artists, and I'll just go on iTunes and listen, pick one artist and listen to everything they have on there and see where that leads you. And a lot of times, and we have the privilege here of having different worship leaders, so we throw around ideas. I don't have to listen to everything. I can listen to what I listen to and get brilliant ideas from other worship leaders or people who.
I want to talk about writing songs
Yep.
here in a minute, but question is, what is the greatest piece of advice for a worship leader that's just starting out?
We've kind of already touched on this, but for me, one of the biggest things that I wish someone would have told me is, you don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to know everything. But if you don't know something, it doesn't matter how grand a scale or how tiny and, like you said, off the cuff something is. If I come across something that I don't know, at least take a few minutes and learn something about that. Tuning drums. Well, why would I ever have to know how to tune the drums? I don't play the drums. Honestly, I don't want to know how to do all that
I
stuff.
didn't even know the drums
Yeah.
could be tuned.
But learn how to set them up.
Yeah.
Learn how to tune them. Well, why? Because in 10 years, you're going to have a few instances where you're going to wish, man, I really wish I knew how to tune those drums, because the person playing them doesn't know, or I wish I knew how to set them back up because they got tore down, and I'm going to be the person who has the most time to set them back up. So little things, even if you don't think they pertain to you, if you come across something you go, oh, I don't know that, write it down, watch a YouTube tutorial on it, ask somebody who does know. And we've got great resources to be able to watch it on YouTube. All these things.
Let me also say, as far as resources
Make it
go,
easy.
if you're a worship leader, you're looking for help, you're looking for resource, I'm not going to necessarily make Megan your right-hand person, but she, I'm sure, is available to answer any questions that you would have about, gosh, I don't even know what kind of drums and how do I find and what
Yeah.
should I get, and I don't know, and what about a microphone and
Oh, gosh, yeah.
and a compressor, what is a compressor, and what about we haven't even talked about sound. We haven't even talked about lighting and all of
It's a
those
big
things that
department.
go
It's big,
into your portfolio.
Yeah.
You're talking about YouTube. I think sometimes smaller ministries, sometimes all they have is the ability to go click and watch, do YouTube worship. Is that viable? Is that doable? Can you worship as a congregation to YouTube videos?
If that's all you've got, yeah. Like I said, this is what we were created to do. And like I said, there's many different aspects. Let's say you don't have anyone to lead worship, but you have someone who paints. Throw the YouTube videos up there, worship to them, but have someone painting. Have an outlet. If that's the avenue that you have, go for that. But even with YouTube worship, I mean, because I've thought about this because, you know, in the past we've had run-ins with, you know, traveling to churches and they go, oh my gosh, you're a real live breathing person. This is all we've had. You know, what can we do?
Right.
And it's find someone, even if you're playing different videos, have someone who maybe doesn't sing or play an instrument, but who can lead, you know, who can have a microphone and can lead people in worship. I want to encourage you before we play this next song to, what is the Lord telling you? Find a place, you know, who can kind of facilitate that.
Yourself, me as well. We travel and we've been to countries where there's not a sound system, let alone the internet to get a YouTube.
Right.
Yet you've got people standing under a tree in a third world country going to town to worship. So my advice, my counsel would be, listen, don't get hung up with, oh, we need these LED lights and we need this particular microphone and those drums. If you bring to the table a heart of worship, that you cannot buy. That is the primary thing. We are about out of time. I want you to give just 2 minutes about songwriting. Can you talk to anybody out there that's just, gosh, I think that might be me?
Oh, it's my favorite thing to do. And I think there are a lot of people that write songs, and then there's people who, man, songwriting is in them to do. And so
our most recent CD, I say our because it's part of here. It was all written by you.
Yeah, and that was I'm glad to be past that milestone. Prelude, because it was our first one. It was the first.
You can order yours. Order yours today.
Totally.
Yeah.
But you know, for me, I started out really slow. I took a songwriting class thinking I'm not a songwriter, but if I have to take an elective, this is what I'm going to pick. Fell in love with it. And I mean, honestly, it took me a long time to get to the point where it's something that I just am doing day in and day out.
It's like building a house. There's a skill to it.
Oh, yes. So for me, if you feel like you're a songwriter, you're a songwriter. If you don't feel like you're a songwriter, you might be. But if you feel like that's something you want to do, your work doesn't have to validate that. The songs that you've written don't validate that. Just start with, man, I think I'm a songwriter, and just dive in and go for it.
And get around people that do it.
Right.
I mean, I've been around people, I'm a songwriter, and they show me what they wrote, or I go, oh, dang, you are not a songwriter. That's not good.
And it takes a tribe.
Yeah.
It takes a tribe of people.
That's a good
Those
way.
songs.
You may be a lyricist, and you're all right.
Yeah, I mean, I could say, oh, you know, those were my brainchild. No. I mean, it took a tribe to write those.
At the end of the really, and at the end of the day, if you do write a song, next thing you know, you didn't write out the drum pat or the
give
or the
credit.
whatever, but this idea that we came together and a collective.
Yep.
You know, well.
The greatest tools are have a voice recorder. Always carry a notepad somewhere where you can write that down or record the licks that come to you, and surround yourself with people who do what you don't do.
Well, we're going to have you back for another
round
conversation on worship arts. We'll talk more about lights and sound, and we've got another person coming on staff soon that's going to even accent what you do in that. And very excited to talk with you today, and always a joy working with you. Today's guest has been Megan Robert. She is our, what are you? Your creative arts director?
I'm the director of worship arts.
Yeah.
Or creative arts.
All those types of things. And we're just thrilled to have you
thanks.
on the team. And if you have any questions as it relates to anything we've talked about today, dial up Megan at iworshipcenter.org. And if you're interested in Fivefold International or our School of Ministry, log on to fivefoldinternational.org. Until next time, I'm Eric Hansen. I'm the founder of Fivefold International and the lead pastor of the iWorship Center network of churches. God bless you, and have a great day.
Would you like to be a credentialed minister? Is God calling you to a deeper relationship with Him? Then log on right now to inquire about Student Ministries Diploma, Pastoral Studies, Music Ministry, Worship Leading, Ministry Studies, and so much more. Inexpensive and only one night a week. Log on right now to fivefoldinternational.org for all the details and to register for Fivefold International School of Ministry.